This episode goes out to Bridget in Westminster. Hi there, Garrett Robinson here. Welcome to the 18th episode of the Nightblade Epic Podcast Season 2. We're still in countdown mode. A Cloak of Red, the newest book of Underrealm, is releasing in just over 2 weeks. 2 weeks! You want to know the most frightening part of a book release? At this point, there's literally nothing else we can do. There's no more revisions to make. The book is formatted and waiting to release. We ordered print copies and they'll be here soon to ship to you. We just have to wait. Really, there's nothing left to do. But there is something you can do. You guessed it. You can still go pre-order your copy of A Cloak of Red at underrealm.net/ttk. Every copy pre-ordered means the world to us, and it helps get more eyes on the books across the internet. And as we get closer and closer to the release, every pre-order helps more and more. So go pre-order your copy of A Cloak of Red today at underrealm.net/ttk. That's underrealm.net/ttk. Okay, now it's time for today's episode. Today, you're getting chapter 23 of Mystic. When we left off, Jordell had made a mysterious deal with Zane to tell the wizard everything he knew about a growing danger in Underrealm. Enjoy! Mystic, Chapter 23. They finished their cups in haste. The day had worn on, and so they returned to the inn where Jem and Annis waited. Vivian accompanied them, much to the displeasure of Lauren and Zane. The children leaped up in joy when Lauren entered the room, but recoiled in fear at the sight of the mystics. "Be still," said Lauren, raising a hand to calm them. "Vivian is under Jordell's thrall and has pledged to do us no harm. Annis, your family will learn nothing of you from her." "Do you believe her promises?" said Annis. "She has the smile of a jackal and serpent's eyes." "Such charming words from a child of the family Yaren," said Vivian. "Your breeding shows well." Lauren decided to ignore that. "I do not believe her," she said, "but I have decided to believe Jordell, at least in this." Jem, for his part, seemed pleased to see the mystic again and reached out to grip wrists. Jordell returned the boy's grasp with a grave nod before Jem turned back to Lauren. "What happened when the constables took you?" "They took us to Jordell," said Lauren. "That is, they took us to their station, and Jordell was there. It was sheer happenstance." "I was curious about that," said Vivian. "They brought you in for petty thievery. Tell me, why did you take that purse from the woodsman?" Lauren looked her in the eye. "As I said before, he spun a tale. We stole nothing, and were apprehended without cause." From the corner of her eye, she saw Jem slide something out of sight with his foot. It looked very much like a purse of coins. Vivian met her gaze a long moment, and then turned to Jordell. "This one is too skilled a liar," she said lightly, as though praising the green in Lauren's eyes. "The wizard admitted the theft, and yet I can see no falsehood in her expression." "What makes you think I am lying? Mayhap the wizard was mistaken." If this was the only victory she could win against Vivian, Lauren would take it. "Oh, I think nothing," said Vivian, and there was sudden venom in her voice. "I know you are lying. Everything about you stinks of a liar." Then she smiled, and the venom disappeared. "I suppose I am able to tell because we are so much alike." Lauren shuddered. Jordell had watched all this passively, though Lauren noted that he looked at Vivian with something like disapproval. Now he turned to Zane. "You would do well to rest tonight before we speak on the morrow. It looks as though your road here was unkind, and many sleepless nights await you." Mayhap the road was unkind, or mayhap fellow travelers upon it, said Zane, glaring at Vivian. But I feel as well as can be expected. My strength has never been greater. As you say, said Jordell, nodding. We shall meet in the morning. And though I believe you will keep your word and remain here, I hope you do not blame me if I have 2 mystics stand guard downstairs to ensure it. If I blame you, will it change your mind? Said Zane. It will not. Then I will not. Where shall we meet you? Said Lauren. Jordell gave her a stern look. I am sorry, but it seems you have misunderstood. I mean to speak only to Zane. What? Said Lauren, putting her hands on her hips. I traveled with you across half of Selvin, and with him across the other half. I deserve to hear your words as much as anyone else. What you deserve has little to do with it. My words for him are of dire importance, and many would think they should not be shared at all. I am only fortunate that I outrank most of those who believe so. Lauren saw Vivian's eyes flash again. You mean to leave me waiting on your doorstep while the 2 of you discuss matters of great importance? Said Lauren. I will not be left out in the cold. It is the midst of summer, and you may wait wherever you wish, said Jordell. But still my words are for Zane's ears alone. You seem to have regained some of your faith since you abandoned me on the King's Road. If that is so, trust me in this. Lauren wanted to shout at him, to give him 1,000 reasons he was wrong, but she could think of none, for she knew nothing of the dark news he withheld. She folded her arms and turned away from him in a sullen silence. Jordell seemed to take that for an answer, for he spoke again to Zane. You will find me at the constable's station where we met today. I will see you in the morning. No doubt you will, grumbled the wizard. I can trust your word in this, said Jordell. Remember, Zane, I have no darker motive than your own good, and you will regain your son, upon my honor. Yes, yes, said Zane, waving a hand. I have heard this before. Leave, or you will press me too hard, and I shall change my mind. Go. Jordell gave a nod and left. After giving them a final, uncomfortably familiar look, Vivian followed. Lauren waited long enough for them to move out of earshot and then checked the hallway to ensure they had left before she spoke to Zane. I assume you do not mean to attend the meeting he has offered? But to her surprise, Zane heaved a sigh. I suppose that I shall, actually. I have only a half-formed idea of using mage stones to blast my son's way to freedom. Who knows what Jordell may accomplish? Hearing his words cannot do my cause any greater harm than it has suffered already. And besides, his plan for leaving the city seems safer than our own. If he must be betrayed, we can do it once he has secured our escape. I am only glad he is back, said Jem. At Lauren's frown, the boy shrugged. I bore him none of the ill will you felt. He saved my life, after all. And ended many others, said Lauren. And now Vivian stands at his side. Where did she come from, anyway? Annis shivered under her patchwork cloak. I do not like the way she looked at me, nor do I have your faith in this Jordell. Zane told me plenty of tales about the mystics when we traveled the King's Road in pursuit of you. Even if Vivian seeks to betray you, she could bring no word to your family until long after we have left this place, said Lauren. And I think she means to stay here to aid Wellmont in its siege against Dorsey. I hope that is true, said Annis. I would not spend one moment longer at her side than I needed to. Did you hear how she spoke of my family and breeding? She is a serpent in human form. That I doubt, said Zane, for she is a mentalist and not a therianthrope. He smiled, but Lauren, Jem, and Annis looked at him blankly. As he caught their looks, his smile soured, and he rubbed his arms as though cold. A jest for mages, I suppose. Some therianthropes, were-mages you call them, can take the form of a serpent. It was only a jest. Jem gave him a gentle pat on the arm and a condescending smile. "Leave the jests to those with quicker tongues, wizard. Stick to your magic. You seem skilled enough at that." Zane shoved his arm away and left the room. Both children had many questions about what had happened after Lauren and Zane were captured, and Lauren gave them the whole account. They also wanted to know about Jordell and Vivian, but for the most part, Lauren had no answers. When they had exhausted themselves with asking, and Lauren had told them what she could, she went downstairs to find Zane in the common room. With her, she brought a coin from Jem's stolen purse to pay for another night's stay and food for them all. Downstairs, she noticed two figures in red cloaks by the front door. Their cowls were thrown forward so that Lauren could not see their faces. She guessed these were the mystics Jordell had left to guard against Zane's escape. She gave each a long look, and one by one they turned away. Lauren found the wizard deep into a bowl of questionable stew and halfway through a mug of dark ale. Another empty mug sat beside the first, and an empty bowl beside the one he ate from. Lauren motioned to the innkeeper for a cup of wine and sat in silence before the wizard. He ate busily for a while, as if oblivious to her presence. Soon his bowl was empty, and he drained the rest of his ale in a single long pull. Only then did he look up at her, wiping the foam from his scrub of beard. "You seem ravenous," she said. "We ate poorly upon the river." It was true, but they had all sated their hunger long since, and Lauren well knew it. "What do you want from me, girl? I cannot move the mystic's mind, and it seems he will hold counsel with none but myself." He had cut to the heart of the matter, to Lauren's surprise, but she took it in stride, placing both elbows on the table as she leaned forwards. "But you could tell me after," she said. "I want to know of these great matters he means to hold as a secret." "It could be nothing," said Zane. "Some conspiracy by lesser nobles to seize a throne in the outland kingdoms. Mystics are known to place greater importance in things than they deserve." Lauren thought of Jordell's icy blue eyes, of his stern mouth, so often smirking and so rarely frowning. "Jordell does not seem the kind of man who would call a thing important unless it truly was." "Oh? And what do you know of him?" A serving woman came with Lauren's wine, and Zane motioned for another mug of ale. "You have known him less time than you have known me, and still you know precious little about my past." "It takes me hardly any time to take the measure of a man. But you avoid the point. Whatever Jordell says to you tomorrow, be it of high import or low, I want you to tell me." She took a sip of the wine. Lauren had never drunk in the Birchwood, and compared every cup to the first she had had with Damaris in Cabras. That had been fine stuff, sweet and heady. What she drank now was base swill by comparison, but still it brought a lightness to her thoughts that she rather enjoyed. Zane shrugged. "I will tell you whatever secrets the mystic imparts upon me, then, though I fear you will be disappointed." "Do not be so sure," said Lauren, taking another sip. "Even small bits of knowledge can be useful, if one can gather enough of them. Menet once brought down a mighty king with the strength of a single whispered word." Zane burst into laughter. His ale arrived, and he kept laughing as he drank deep, sending splashes of it to darken his coat. "Menet, now you talk of stories and legends." "Not all legends are pure fancy," said Lauren. "Menet's are. Do not tell me you believe his tales to be true. It is likely no one named Menet ever lived at all." Lauren's ears burned, and she glared at the wizard. "Of course he did. There are 1,000 tales of him. How could they all be false? How could they all be true? You have lived a life of adventure for months now. Have you done even one great deed worthy of a story? Have you had the chance? How could you have 1,000 such chances in a lifetime?" "I am young yet." The wizard's words angered her, but she did not know why. Of course, some of Menet's stories must be flights of fancy. But to doubt his very existence? She had never considered that, and she did not like it. Then she remembered how she had escaped from her cell in Cabris. And besides, some of his tales are certainly true. I have already used one to escape my prison. Zane ignored that. He had grown silent and intent, studying her face as though seeing her for the first time. Lauren found his gaze uncomfortable. His cheeks seemed even more hollow in the dim glow of the fireplace, and his hair had grown thin and stringy. She thought suddenly that he looked like a skull, with its skin stretched too tight, a scrap of wig desperately clinging to the top. But as sallow as his face seemed, his eyes had lost none of their vigor. In fact, they gleamed brighter than ever, and bore some hint of a glow, even though he used no magic. It was a frightening visage, and Lauren found herself wishing he would look away. "I feel I understand you at last," he said quietly. "That day I found you in the woods. You did not only seek to escape your home. You meant to find for yourself a life of adventure, some mighty quest that would lead you across the 9 lands in search of fame and glory. You meant to become Menet." Lauren scowled and took another sip of wine. "Do not be ridiculous. Menet had a cloak of shadows and the blessings of the darkness itself. How could I hope to become that?" Zane laughed again, and this time it came harsh and scornful. "You prove yourself out. You have already gained for yourself a cloak of deep black, and you call yourself the Nightblade. Oh, this is rich. You seek to live the elf-tale life of a man who never even lived at all." Lauren wanted to strike him and flee from the table all at the same time. "Because they tell tales of him does not mean he did not live. People tell tales of the Wizard Kings, too. Do you think they were only a flight of fancy?" That sobered him. "You compare the sun to the moons. We still feel the echoes of the Wizard King's power today. Laws exist written in ancient texts from the days of their dark rule. And a story of Menet helped me bend bars of iron using only cloth," said Lauren triumphantly. Zane's mood darkened further, but he waved a hand in dismissal. "Very well. Believe what you wish. Only stop trying to pull me down your mad path of fancy. I would discuss with you another matter." It was a poor victory, but a victory nonetheless, and Lauren let it go. "Very well. What plagues you, wizard?" Zane leaned forwards, and his eyes grew hungry. "After I speak to Jordell, I do not mean to go along with his plan. This you know." "Of course," said Lauren, nodding, "though he may convince you." "He will not," Zane insisted. "I may pledge myself to him anyway. We must escape the city, after all. But he may suspect a trick, and so refuse my service." Lauren knew that for the truth. Zane's tongue was as clumsy as a drunk merchant. "And if he does, what then?" "I have another plan for escape," said Zane, speaking quickly now, "but for it to work, I will need another Magestone." Lauren felt her heart skip, and she did not know why. "Tell me your plan," she said, not sure how to refuse him outright. "With the power of a single stone, I could blast a hole in the city wall. Nothing dangerous, just large enough for one to slip through at a time, but enough for the 4 of us to flee. It would be over in a moment before the guards could react." Lauren stared at him. "And then the armies of Dorsey would widen that crack and come pouring through to kill everyone here." Zane blinked. "I had not thought of that. But no, we could do it on the wall's northern side. The Dortians would have to cross the river to reach it, and could not do so before Wellmont sealed the wall behind us, leaving it weak and ripe for sapping. And you have forgotten that a second army approaches from the north even now. Besides, the gods could easily shoot us with arrows." "Very well," said Zane quickly. "I could use wind to lift us over the wall, flying away like birds." "And they would shoot us down just the same," said Lauren, shaking her head. No, Zane, our best and safest route of escape is still to purchase our way upon a wagon. What we stole yesterday should be enough. Zane slammed a hand on the table. I am telling you, we must use another... He caught himself at the last moment, and looking around, Lauren saw that all eyes in the common room had turned to him, including those of the mystics by the door. He glared at them until they looked away, and then leaned in to whisper. A mage stone, he said. It is the only way to be sure. Lauren steeled herself. No, Zane, I will not. We agreed that you would receive your half when we reached your contact in Dorsey. But it is my share, is it not? Said Zane angrily. Or do you mean to cheat me out of what is mine? Of course not, but I will not have you squander it all before we arrive. You must save some for your son's rescue, or have you forgotten him? She had pushed him too far, and she knew it before the words left her mouth. Zane snarled, and his hand clenched on the table. But suddenly he winced and lifted his hand, and Lauren saw that the motion had driven a splinter deep into his flesh. Zane stared at it for a moment, as though woken from a dream. His eyes rose to her. You are right. We shall escape with Jordell. That is safest. Something had changed in his eyes, and for a moment he looked as he had when Lauren first spied him in the birchwood. Zane? Lauren said quietly. Are you all right? I will be fine. I should go. It seems I have much to learn tomorrow. He stood and left the table, making for the rooms. Lauren watched him go, and somehow she was more frightened than before. This has been a production of Legacy Books, written and narrated by Garrett Robinson. The music in this podcast was created by Will Musser. Check out his incredible work at willmusser.com. That's WILLMUSSER.com. Today's letter is N. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.